Thea, can we ask you about another story that is doing the rounds today? It's the true cost of asylum hotels. Now, hopefully you can clear up these numbers for us. It's in the Telegraph this morning.
Yeah.
Apparently the cost of housing migrants has tripled to £4 million a day. Now, I was under the impression it was already £6 million.
Yes, so the numbers have actually come down. The numbers have actually come down on the previous year. So last year alone the cost was £4.6 million a day. I seem to remember, this was when Boris Johnson announced the Rwanda scheme. The number that was talked about was £6 or £7 million a day, as you rightly say. So the number has come down, and that's as a result. You would think of the government processing applications for asylum more quickly. Of course, there is a flip side to that, because obviously many people are granted right to remain in this country. But I think what's perhaps more worrying, and this is that this is between 2019 and 2029, the total forecast is now 15.3 billion, and that's triple the original number that was set aside for asylum accommodation, and that's worrying. And this is.
But when was that set aside? Is that pre-2019?
Yes, pre-2019. When the number was first. So this is when the forecasts were first made. The forecast came in at 4.5 billion. That's now 15.3 billion. And I think this is where a mistake. The Labour Party is in danger of making a mistake here, coming off the back of the local elections, because it's thinking, do we go to the right with Nigel Farage, or do we actually worry about issues that are central to the Labour Party, like the winter fuel allowance and like the personal independence payments for the disabled? And what you see here in the third paragraph, and this is the crux of it, is that what the Labour Party have to wrestle with is that those issues are two sides of the same coin. This isn't about left or right. This is about dealing with the challenges in front of us, because the third paragraph puts it, and this is a report by Tony Diver and Charles Hymas in the front of the Telegraph. The £15 billion figure is 3 times greater than Labour's proposed benefit cut and would pay for 15 new hospitals. And the point is that if, and this was up in Runcorn and Helsby, that yes, Sarah Potchin and Nigel Farage, when they were out campaigning, were making the point about immigration, but they were also making the point, and the voters in Runcorn and Helsby voted for reform because what they saw is they saw the benefits cut, they saw the winter fuel allowance being removed, and then in return more money being spent on these migrant hotels and accommodation. And that's what the Labour Party has to wrestle with. It's not a question about left or right, it's a question about solving this particular problem and then having the money to spend on the things that it wants to spend money on, like restoring potentially the winter fuel allowance in some shape or form, or not necessarily cutting as deep, and we're prepared for further cuts in the autumn potentially to welfare payments, because that's what's really angering people out on the doorstep.
Well, presumably the Labour Party, and we are going to talk to them later on this hour actually, but presumably they would say, well, this figure is too high, but we've only been in government 10 months, and this is a pre-2019 figure. Yeah. It was way underestimated by the Conservatives.
But they had a pledge in that election, going back to last summer, to smash the gangs and to deal with the migrant, and to deal with the hotels, and to remove people from hotels and deal with the crisis there, because it's costing us a huge amount of money.
But if that figure's gone down from 6 million a day to 4 million a day, they would say they're making progress on that.
It's slow progress. They need to make quick progress, and they need to make progress before the run into the next election. And if they can do that, then that's fine. But it's not just enough to process the applications more quickly, because, and this is the Refugee Council have said it, around half of those who make applications have the right to remain, granted the right to remain in this country. What they need to do desperately and very quickly is to stop the irregular crossings from northern coast of France into Kent. That's what they need to deal with, because it's all very well to deal with what happens at the other end of the system, and they're making progress on that, and the number of deportations is up. But what they need to do is they need to stop the crossings, and simply smashing the gangs and all of these agreements isn't making any headway on that. We're forecast, I think, this year, going by current projections, to go through 50,000 illegal, irregular crossings, choose which word you will, from the English Channel. And that will be the first time we've gone through 50,000 in a year. And I think that actually comes off the back of a story I did previously with you from figures obtained by GB News.
This is confusing, because it's saying, the Telegraph is saying the figure has tripled for hotels. at £4 million a day, though in fact it's been reduced from £9 million a day down to £4 million. So it's been more than cut in half and yet somehow tripled.
Right. So because this is the problem here is that there's fluctuations in when migrants are coming, when we're housing them, where we're putting them. Have they had their appeals done? Have they had the right to remain? Not the right to remain. Have they been given settled status and all this stuff? See, there's a lot of things that change throughout this course in time. However, this is to do with contracts that were signed by the Conservative Party. So they signed deals with hotels and all these things at a cost of what they would assume £4.5 billion between 2019 and 2029. Now, because costs have gone up so dramatically, they're now expected those original costs of £4.5 billion will be at least £15.3 billion.
All right, so whose fault is that?
Well, it's probably the fault of the Conservative Party for not getting on top of the crisis in the first place. I mean, this is the reality, isn't it? We won't be dealing with this issue, we won't be talking about this had we not got on top of it for a long period of time. And of course, unfortunately, Keir Starmer is seemingly unwilling to do anything about it either.
No, actually, that is not true, because what Labour always promised, I mean, there is a problem with the boats, right? But what they always promised, the bigger problem, is there was an amazing backlog. And what you have to do is you have to process it and you have to send the people who shouldn't be here back. Right, and that's what's happening, and I mean, we know that for the Tories,
Scarlett, but people coming over on boats are not being sent back.
They are.
No, they're not.
They are.
By all accounts, they are not being sent back. There is no evidence to suggest anyone who's come over here on a small boat has been sent back.
But deportations
deportations are voluntary.
No, deportations are not voluntary.
Only 20% of people that shouldn't be here have been forced back. Of that number that the government has given.
No, because Alex, you assume.
We have to be honest here. We can't just.
I am being honest. I want to say two things. One is you assume that anybody coming here on a small boat is not a refugee.
I do assume that, yes.
Well, many of them are refugees, right? Many of them are refugees.
You can make that argument.
And they stay. Well, I mean, I think that, I do talk about a young woman I had staying at my house who was a Christian in Eritrea, and yes, her parents had been jailed for the last 9 years, and she came here. But more important is, where does the money come from? And it comes, all of the hotel migrants, it comes from our international aid money.
Well, no, that might be fair enough, and I don't want to get into a debate of whether people are refugees or we can have that separate discussion.
Really,
however, what I will say
Alex,
is that the problem we've got here, Scarlett, is that this is $15 billion. The government have just said they're not going to compensate victims of rape gangs. They have taken away the winter fuel allowance. I know where it's coming from, but it's still taxes, Scarlett. It's still taxes that could be discounting. Yes, so international aid. Who pays international aid? It's our taxes.
So there is a pot called international aid, right?
Which is our money, right?
Yes, but if it didn't go on asylum, it would go to Africa, right?
But no, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. That's the point. It shouldn't be. I
don't think you understand budgeting.
I do understand budget. I'm saying the budget should go to British people first.
Okay,
but Scott, okay. How
can you ever let me finish a sentence? The point is that we put 0.3% of GDP into international aid, right? It does not go to rape gangs. It goes to international aid, and part of that, a great deal of that money, goes on asylum seekers and actually Ukrainian refugees.
I know, but right. Scarlett, you're missing my point. My point is,
you're not listening.
Why are we spending it on those things when we're telling victims of the biggest stain on our country they can't have a penny in compensation?
No,
right.
because
Alex,
we've got to take
stupid?